Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you on Wednesday, October the 14th. The year's 2020. Let's talk trading. What to do when something goes wrong. But before we start the video, I must remind you these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. What to do when something goes wrong. I was trading with a couple traders this morning, and one of them was Walmart, and we were in the pound, and he's like, "Hey, did you get that?" Well, my screen was just sitting there frozen. I want to show you what we were talking about here. And what happened was the price had dropped like a rock. But because my screen had frozen, I didn't see it. And I think it was right here, this 1 minute candle. Yeah, this is the one. It dropped like a rock, and I was short somewhere around 70 something. Let me look here. I was short at 79.9. So there was a potential right here for me to pick up 10 pips on the trade. So what happened was machine froze, and so I brought up the platform on my phone. But by that time, price had already gone back up. Well, then the computer unfroze, and then I had a chance to take 3 pips here, but I didn't. And of course, as you can see, prices reversed. Point being is when something goes wrong, the best thing to do is get out. Okay, so the market smiled upon me, and as I always tell you guys, you know, take your profit before it takes it back. But I'm looking here thinking, and that was my mistake, thinking that price would probably come back down because I've seen this pattern before. You get this wick and then price comes back down. So I was waiting patiently to get my 10 pips. Meanwhile, the market goes, not this time, Rumpled One, not this time. So what did it do? It took it back. So the lesson to be learned here, lesson number one is if you have some type of weird problem like that, like your computer freezes and then it comes back live, just get out because you don't know if it's going to do it again or not. So especially if you have a profit, just get out, wipe the slate clean, and then stand back and watch to see if things are back to normal or not. That's the smartest thing to do. And the second thing that you need to do is you need to write these things down. You could either put them in a trading journal, or what I prefer is on a 3x5 card, old school. And then what you do is every day before you start trading, so you might have to get up 15 minutes earlier, you read each and every one of those cards to remind you of these things. So, for example, when I was in college, I was taking a lot of credits this one semester. It was either I think it was 18 or 20 credits. It was a lot. So what I would do every day is I would read my notes from the classes from day one to the current day. Every day. I did it over and over again. And at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing, but what I was doing was spaced repetition. And that's how you learn. So you go through the material and then you put it down. You come back, you go through the material again, then you put it down. And what happens is it's kind of like making a groove in a record. And your brain, once it gets in that groove, it stays in that groove. And what'll happen is after a while, you'll know it by heart. You'll be able to repeat it by heart because of the spaced repetition. It's kind of like songs. I mean, there's some songs from the 60s, I remember the words to. Why? Because I've heard it so many times. I've sung it so many times, sung along with it so many times. It's burned in my brain. And so that's what you have to do here with trading. You have to burn these things in your brain, these lessons that you learn, these little nuggets. So you write it down. And the reason I prefer the 3x5 card, because that way you can mix them up. So sometimes you might want to read them in the same order. Sometimes you might want to shuffle them each day. So you don't know what's coming back, what's coming next. And that way, that also tricks your brain into capturing that knowledge too. And then you might want to pull one card or a couple cards aside and set them right by your monitor. So those are maybe that's your mantra for today. Maybe that's your intent for today. Like in yoga, usually before class, the teacher will ask you to, pause and come up with an intention for today's class. And that's what you focus on during that class. And that would probably work during trading. So you might have an intention that no matter what, you don't lose any more than X number of pips per trade, or you will be extremely focused this trading session, and you will not be distracted by anything else. And you will take every trade when it presents itself without any further thought. Things like that. So that's the takeaway. Because it's once again, people say, well, you always say it's simple. Well, it is simple. It's just the biggest impediment is that face staring back at you when you look in the mirror. We get in our own way so many times. And I think I was reading something yesterday or listening to a video, and they were talking about how, there's a lot of people who talk and then there's people who do. And it's like, it's really funny. In the union, we have these meetings now on Zoom, and somebody go, okay, well, can you do this? Well, as soon as they go, I go, yeah, okay. I start doing it right then and there. So before the meeting's over, it's done. It's over with, because I can basically multitask, because most of the stuff that's going on in those meetings is worthless anyway. But every now and then, an action item comes up and you have to take action on it. So I just take the action, do it while they're sit there, just flapping their pie holes, flapping their jaws. Anyway, but back to trading. Point being is that you want to be that have that focus. Now, a trader asked me on a video. Let me put this back to auto scroll here. Properties, chart, auto scroll. There we go. When do I know when to go long or trade away from the open, or when do I trade towards it? I go, well, it depends. Basically the answer is it depends. Now, if you are a green rat, then sometimes you're going to be trading towards the open out of the rat zone. Okay. Sometimes you might be trading away from the open because you could be trading out of the upper wick zone. And just the opposite. If you're a green rat, you could be trading towards the open from the daily rat zone, or you could be trading away from the open out of the lower wick zone of the previous day's candle. Or you might be taking some other trade. So it really depends on whether or not, or it really depends on which method or methods you're deploying at the moment. Right now, Hall Mall and I, for about since last week, we've been working on a new entry off of the three balls, where we wait for a three ball, and it's similar to what he did before, where he likes to wait for the high here, and in this case, you take the break at a low there, right here. So you would go short there, and you would have gone long here. And as you can see in both cases, it would have been profitable. Now, you might notice something here. I've updated the 3-level ZZ indicator. I put in a new update right here, this indicator right here, and I will probably be releasing it sometime soon. And what it does is it tells you what the semaphore range is. So right now, between the 3 ball and the 2 ball, it's 8.1 pips. So instead of having to do this, actually that's the wrong. Here's the range here. I didn't see that new. So you can see right here that says 80 and this says 8.1, so it's in the ballpark. So right now we've got a semaphore range of 8.1 pips. It looks at the most recent lower semaphore and most recent upper semaphore. And oh, and when you get the indicator, just so you know, in order for you to see that, what you have to do is where it says show TRO mods, you can have that to false, but training wheels, you have to set that to true because this is the training wheels part right here. So it helps traders know. So right here, you see we just put in a new semaphore moving down, and the semaphore range is now increased. And what we're using that for are basically two things. One, if the range is too tight, we don't take the trade. Or if we're in a trade and the range is tight, we might stay in it a little bit longer because we know this number is usually going to get to be a certain number of pips. And that's something I guess I've got some work to do to write an indicator that'll go back and read what this value was and read what this value was and then read what this value was. So we can get an idea of what to expect. And so I'll probably have to do it. So like in the stats, it would say, um, let's see, I guess the way it would read is upper two to lower two was this number of pips. And then lower three to upper two was this number of pips. So when you're reading the display, you'll be able to understand and then maybe hone in on when you should exit or not based on statistics. But of course, statistics, that's all before you get in the trade. Once you get in the trade, you have to trade in the moment. So sometimes statistics be damned. If price moves and it stops and you're up 4 or 5 pips and it's saying maybe you could wait for 7 pips, you might just want to take those pips off the table because as I showed you earlier, what happened to me. But that was a totally different situation. But the overall point is that you got to take the pips before the market takes it back. Was I being greedy? Maybe. But once again, I've seen that pattern before where price will come back and fill those candles like that, but it didn't do it that time. It tried to, but it didn't. Probably, if I looked at it harder, it probably went to the midpoint and reversed. So that's another thing that I have observed over the years. So how many times does, price go back to a midpoint and then reverse? Now I'm trying to think, was there any other questions out there? I know there was the question about when do I trade towards the open and away from the open? And I think somebody else had a question about the money management. And I talked to Walmart all today. And what we'll probably do, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, we'll do a video or two and really get into some of the nuts and bolts of the money management, how each of us do it, what we're thinking, why we do it that way. So maybe you guys might be able to pick up a tip or two from that. So, fellow traders, just remember when things go wrong, when you can clear the deck, stand aside, and because there'll be another trade. Because just remember and always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. And if you're new here, welcome aboard. Please click subscribe, click like, and share the video all over the trading forums on the internet. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.